Good afternoon, everyone. This is the weekly check in, Life Unscripted. So, I'm going to give everyone a moment to introduce themselves and then I'll go last. So, Keisha.
Well, hello. Good to see everybody again. I am Keisha Blair, Keisha L. Blair, electrician by trade, also a keynote speaker and workshop facilitator, and a podcast host for Alpha Intuition.
Awesome. Thank you. Francis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Francis Hawkins. Um, well, I'm only going to do one because there's several of them. But life insurance and investment, just making sure that our people are properly covered with the right type of life insurance and set up investments for their retirement.
Awesome. Ernest.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Ernest James. I am a podcaster, speaker, and author, amongst other things. And my mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with their problems, to heal from their pain, and to fulfill their purpose.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I'm Veronica White. I have a nonprofit. It's called Help from a Sister, where we cater to single parents that have a child on the autism spectrum. We provide tools, techniques, and resources to help them transition from where they are to where they want to be. So that's our spiel, that's our intro. This week discussion, we're going to continue the theme of Black History Month, but we're going to bring it closer to home. And we're going to talk about reflecting on our history and what impact are we trying to leave for this generation and the generation after ours. So, anybody want to start off, or should I ask a question?
You can ask a question.
Sounds good. What does leaving a legacy mean to you personally?
Anyone
So, to me, of course, to me, leaving a legacy is me sharing my journey, my struggles, the good and the bad. So therefore, the generation up under me know that they're not the only ones going through it. They're not the only ones feeling insecure or feel like they're not enough or they can't make it. No, I'm as the head of our family right now is there to let them know. Matriarch, that's what it is. Let them know, like, hey, no, I've been through some things. Life ain't easy. It gets hard. It gets dark, and it feels lonely. But keep pushing on because you're going to persevere. It's not always dark. Sometimes the sun shines. It's gonna rain sometime. We live in Chicago. We have all the seasons. Same thing in life. You're gonna have all the seasons. So I want to help prepare them, but also share my stories to let them know, like, I didn't have it easy either. I had relationships that didn't work out. I was a single parent. I was struggling living check to check. I didn't have good credit. Now, that's not the situation. That's not the case. But there was some discipline and some things that I had to do to change my life. So therefore, it changes the generations after mine. Okay, so that was mine.
Okay, I'm going to jump in after you. A lot of it would be the same thing as you mentioned. But for me, my legacy, and this is funny we're having this topic right here because my oldest son is 42. And we often talk about me raising him as a single parent and what he took from me, which I find it so profound because sometimes you don't think your children are listening, and things to that nature. And what they do, well, what mine was watching was me not giving up, not in study striving for what I want to do and how long did I be a part of something and stability. Because one thing that people don't understand, when you plant a seed, like when you move one place and then you move it, That's not stability. So you want to leave a legacy of stability, so your children can see, well, I don't have to move all the time. Let me find some a place where I'm comfortable at, where I can see myself being at. So just to be able to know I'm making an impact in my children's life, that we can sit up and have a conversation about what they seen as a child, what I was doing, when I was dressing up, when I first opened my non-for-profit. They seen me dressing up, they seen me going to meetings, they seen me networking, and they see that it hasn't changed, that I'm still doing the same thing. So that is leaving a legacy. Now for the grandchildren is to spend more time with them, so they get a chance to see it, so I can implement the same thing into them. Like, I'm starting with my granddaughter. She gonna be able to say, well, me and my grandmother spent some time together. Well, my grandmother didn't let me do that. It's also not just a legacy, but implementing morals, giving the children morals, and things to that nature. So it's really important to take everything that I've learned from my mom and more that I've learned on my own to be able to implement into my children. So one day we were at my mom's house. My daughter and my well, she's the only girl, but my daughter and my youngest son, and they was like, "Mama, you doing this, that, and the other." I said, "Well, where do you think I got it from? I got it from your grandmama, but you don't want to say that to your grandmama. That's who raised me. So I'm raising you the way she raised me, but you want to get on me about it." And we just laughed about it, because they see the not just the legacy of it, but it's the word I'm looking for, but the consistent. I'm sorry, guys, but the consistent of it coming from one generation to the next. So yeah, leaving a legacy and getting better at it and continue to do it for the next generation, for the grandchildren, is important.
Awesome. But let me just piggyback on something you just said. And I heard Pastor Keon Henderson mention this recently in a sermon, when he was saying that some parents look at their parenting skills from what their parents did and was like, well, I'm not going to be like my mom or my dad. I'm going to do this and that. So that makes me a better parent. He said, no, it's not you a better parent because of you're not doing what they did. You just take the good parts of what they did, add it on to what you're doing. Now just be the best parent you can be with whatever the situation and circumstances you have. So,
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah. I'll jump right in on the next one here. So for me, when I think about leaving a legacy, mine is actually centralized for personal and professional. So professionally, it is me just paving the way for other women in skilled trades. As an electrician, being an electrician for 30 years, my journey and my walk was difficult for me. So I want to make sure that I try to lighten that load for other women who come after me, and just make sure that I do things that will break that ceiling just a little bit, or crack that ceiling just a little bit more for them than it was cracked for me by previous people. And then also for my children, it's for me just to make sure that I help them to navigate life and do things that I didn't know how to do when I was their age, like helping them to get into colleges, or helping them to figure out what path they want to go down, as they become adults. So it's just me helping them to become the CEO of their lives, like I help people do it every day.
Awesome. Sounds good.
And I'll jump in now. So my when I think about leaving a legacy is kind of twofold. Sort of like Keisha's. I have a legacy that I want to leave for my family, but then I also have a legacy that I want to leave in the work that I do, right? And so when I think about my family and just reflecting on some of the other well-known families like the Hiltons and the Fords and all of these other families whose legacies have been passed down generation to generation, I wanted to do that same thing for my family, right? So I have 8 siblings, and so it's a lot of us in the core, just in our core personal families, and then all of us have children. And this year, well, we're into this year now. I think this year alone, we've had three or four additions to the family thus far. 7 within the last year. We've had 7 additions in the next generation. So we got my generation, we got our kids, and now our kids are having kids, and so now we own a third generation already, and I just want to leave a legacy to build upon, with my family, to say, look, I'm doing this here, but it's for all of us to do, like all of us to come together and build together. And there's enough of us to really build, I don't know if you want to call it a company or whatever you want to call it, but there's enough of us to come together with our resources to really build whatever we want to have as a family, to be able to continue with it, generation after generation. And so I want to do that, within my family. And then with the work that I do, I want to do the same, sort of the same thing, be that same example to the people that I come in contact with. And so even in my space as being a mentor, I had the privilege of growing up with my father my whole life, with my father in the home, growing up in a 2-parent household, but that's not everybody's reality. And so one of the things I do now, as part of a mentor, I'm a mentor at a mentor group. And so we have, 25 plus boys that we mentor on a consistent basis. And so even showing up in those spaces to, allowing that to be a part of my legacy by pouring into them and then watching how far they go, individually. And so just things of that nature, in private, should I say personal, and in business, sort of, to say, but definitely leaving something that's going to continue long after I'm gone.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah, that is. Okay. So my next question would be, what lessons have you learned from your ancestors or previous generations that help guide you today? So for me, I'm going to say my biggest lesson, and the hardest one for my grandmother to teach me, was to share. Y'all know I love giving now. I'm an amazing giver. But as a child, being the only child and very spoiled, I figured that. So my dad used to let me get whatever I wanted. I used to bring a bag of candy home. So my cousins, they're all around my age. So I tell them, put your hand in there. Whatever you can take out with your hand, that's yours. Move along. The next person. After they all did that, one of my cousins would go tell my grandmother, okay, so she did share. She only gave us a little, but she got all that candy left. So my grandmother would say, bring the bag in here. Now, everybody already got their little handful. She take it, and if it's 10 kids, she divide it equally among all 10 kids. I'm like, so that means I get the less of my own stuff? Like, that don't make sense. Consistently, every week, my grandmother would do this. What it taught me as an adult, when my children were 10 and 12, they're in their football activities, and I have a car full of kids, it wasn't, okay, I'm taking everybody to McDonald's. My kids get $5. Everybody else get $3. It was no. Every child in the car, we get $3, Back then, it was the kids' meals, you can get $1, right? So I told them, y'all all got $3. I'll cover your tax. Each person get $3. You get what you want. But if my grandmother wouldn't taught me that lesson, my mentality was, hey, DJ Sierra, y'all get what y'all want. Everybody else, y'all get $3. No, the correct way of doing it is each child in the car with me get $3, and that's it.
Well, I'll share this, Veronica. Again, growing up, it's 9 of us, right? And so my mom would always say, whenever we were all together, if one of us be like, Mom, I want to go to whatever restaurant, she would say, don't come in this car and, not ask everybody else if they wanted some, or offer. And so one of the things I would do, I would get in the car. I'm like, hey, anybody want some? Everybody like, yeah, I want some. I'm like, I'm just asking because Mom said don't get in here and not ask. I ain't got nothing for you, But one of the things that we still do that my mom did with us, again, is 9 of us. So if we had a birthday party, we would basically be having a birthday party every month, and so at some point my mom was like, all right, this is too much. And so what we started doing is having one family birthday party. And it was just like one birthday party, and we all celebrated our birthdays at one time. And that's still something that we do. We try to do today. So, yeah.
Oh, awesome. That is good.
Well, I'm going to say that just to answer that question about lessons I've learned from ancestors that helps me guide me through what I do today, actually was a statement or a comment from Maxine Waters. And she said that if there's no seat for you at the table, you bring a folding chair.
That part.
I learned to just like, not just because someone doesn't want you at the table doesn't mean that you're not supposed to be there. You show up anyway, and you don't let them push you out. So when I talk about skilled trades and talk about breaking that glass ceiling, it's been plenty of times where I've been always the apprentice, never the journeyman, never the foreman. And it's been times where I've actually, ran projects and people looked at me like I was less or just didn't want to include me. Well, I'm going to be included. So, that's just me. When there's no room for the table, you bring a folding chair.
Awesome. I like that. That is good.
And to piggyback off what Keisha said, we were both in the trades, and I'm a bricklayer, 20 plus years, whatever. Anyway, so and here in our area, it's not uncommon to have ladies in the trades, right? And so over the last couple of years, we've had different projects where one of our ladies who was in the trades and the bricklayers specifically was our foreman. And so we would get, guys from all around the United States that would come to work in this area because we had the work. And so we did have some journeymen from down south who did not like a woman telling them what to do. So
not at all.
It was a couple of them didn't make it the first week. They just could not take it that there was a woman telling them, giving them direction and everything. But that's one of those things, and so I'm proud of Keisha and even proud of the ladies that's in our area who I know, because even in our trade, in our local, should I say, with the bricklayers, there's still only less than 10 women, in our trade, and then even if you want to count minorities, there's probably now less than 10 African Americans in our trade, in our local, just to kind of how it goes. And so, definitely me and Keisha, one of the things we've talked about is being really adamant about, pressing that information about the building trades to the next generations, the boys and the girls, because the opportunity is there, so we definitely want to take it, present it to them so that they can take it. But personally, one of the things that pushes me, going back to the fact that I was raised in a 2-parent household and having my dad under the same roof as me my entire life, until I became an adult and moved out. One of the stories that I share is, growing up in the city, Chicago, you got your homies and you hang out on the block and you be cracking jokes on each other and all of that stuff, And so this one specific day, my brother and one of my friends were, kind of going back and forth and, cracking jokes on each other. And my friend went on a tangent, right, talking about my dad, right, saying all this stuff about my dad, cracking jokes and stuff. And my brother didn't say anything. And so when he finished, my brother just looked at him calmly and said, "You can tell me everything about my dad, but I can't tell you anything about yours." And even though in the moment it was funny, and I never forgot that. And I was a teenager, and I'm going to be 49 this year, and that still sticks with me. And so just that experience, and then having my dad in my life, even now, has pushed me even more to be a mentor and to be, a father figure to those who don't have a father figure, because I know how instrumental my dad was in my life and even in the life of my friends. And I've even had a conversation with adult men who was way older than me talking about my dad and just how my dad influenced them as adults, and I'm like, you're almost the same age as my dad, but still talking about how my dad, what part influence, how my dad influenced them. And so just knowing how important that father figure is pushes me now to still, do what I can to be an example.
Oh, awesome. Okay. And before Francis I just want to piggyback on something you said, because my upbringing was a little different. My mom and dad were not together, but it did not stop my dad from being a super dad for everybody. My dad tried to control everybody's household. Wherever I stepped foot, he figured he had authority. Well, he didn't figure, he had authority. And looking back now, like I loved and appreciated it that my dad was always there. In the blink of an eye, I could turn around and he right there. I'm thinking he out west somewhere. I'm out south first south. He turned around 15 minutes. My dad said, I can get anywhere in Chicago in 15 minutes. Act up if you want to. But he was a very present dad. And that's because his dad wasn't there. He didn't know who his dad was. So he figured my child and every other child that's associated with me, he was a father figure. I love that for my dad. Okay. Francis, do you want me to read the question again or you got it?
I think I got it.
Okay,
I got it. I'm going to go back to my grandparents. For some apparent reason, I'm the oldest of 9 children out of 9, but I am a child of 17. So I am the oldest of 9 children. And my grandfather, every year, when I would go back to Mississippi, because I'm not from Chicago, I was born in Mississippi. Every time I would go down there, he would have a big old jar container full of pennies that he would save especially just for me. And I would be down there with my other cousins. But it was kind of like, okay, why he's giving these to me? But not knowing that it was a reason why, because they kind of like helped raise me for the early, adult childhood of my life. So I guess it was just his way of saying, hey, I got this for you, this, that, and the other. So that instilled something in me. So when I would go down south, he's saving me and giving me these pennies. I started collecting rocks. So I don't know why I'm collecting these rocks, but I'm like, okay, Big Daddy giving me these pennies. So I'm going to save me some rocks and take them back home with me. It was just something fascinating about the rocks. They were different than it was in Chicago. So I'm like, oh, maybe I could do something with these rocks. Maybe I could sell. As a little girl, I'm thinking about all this. He's giving me money, this and the other. So that was just a funny part of it. So we riding down the highway going back home. And my mother like, why is your suitcase so heavy? I'm like, I don't know. She said, let me see what's in your suitcase. So we pulled over. My uncle was driving. We pulled over and she looked at my suitcase and I got all these rocks. And she just throwing them away. I'm like, but mama. So later on, anyway, I just had to, because it was just a funny part that stuck out with my grandfather with the pennies and the rocks. But anyway, that stuck out with me with the money and the saving the pennies, because I do that. I do that now. I save change and I don't even, and it's not even like I'm saving the change to go and put it in a machine. I could need some money and that change is sitting right there and I would not touch that change. I'm just putting more change in it, if that makes sense. It even taught me how that he left with me just to put money in different places. Just to have it in different places, just in case of, an emergency or something. I mean, I just look back. Sometimes you sit back as an adult and you go back into your past and you just look at your childhood and what is still that you're still implementing from your childhood to now. But one thing, that was my grandfather. One thing that really stuck out with me, and I was talking to a friend on the phone the other day and he was very shocked. My mother told me, and I just spoke with my mother about this on Friday. She said, never be jealous over anybody for anything. Never be envy. Because the same thing that they have, if you want it, go work and get it. If you don't know how to, everybody might not want to teach you, but you can find somebody that will help you learn where you need to go. She implemented that in us so strongly. So when we were talking on the phone, he was like, you never been jealous of it? I said, for what? I might not have all the money. I might not have the best of a car. I have a car. That's showing gratitude. But I said, my mama taught me that I don't have to be jealous over nothing. Because if I want it, all I have to do is go and get it. Because you got so many people that are envy and jealous of people. That's why relationships be messed up. Even husband and wives relationship be messed up, jealousy. But what for? When you got that person that can uplift you. You know what I'm saying? I'm really happy that my mother instilled that in me, because I teach it to my children. If you want to go work and get it, you can have anything you want. So therefore, I can instill it in my grandchildren. So that part of the legacy from my mom, and I know she'd be like, she listened. I might not act like I listened growing up, but I actually listened because it just instilled that I don't have to be jealous of anybody over anything, because I can go and get it. So that's for me, that really is the one more than anything, is that one.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So what I feel that this generation is missing that I haven't saw too much of is, when you used to go to your grandparents' house and all your cousins come over and they just watch you. Y'all spend a night, y'all spend a couple of hours, but your grandmother is watching over you. She's gonna cook for you. You always gonna eat there. You're gonna have fun, and you get to see your cousins. Well, I don't see grandparents getting their children, and the parents are busy trying to figure it out or escape from this current reality. And then now we don't have the grandparents. So the children are missing out on the love that you used to receive from your grandmother or your nana or your big mama. They're gone. But because I had those grandmothers, big mamas in my life, I like that. So I am that type of grandma. They'd be like, I used to get everybody kids. These days, I only just get my grandkids. But I think I'm gonna start back implementing picking up my cousin kids because they still love to be around me. Because from babies, I take kids from babies, so I'm training them how to act when they get to my house. So now they're 16, 17 years old. I'm like, I don't got time for y'all. Y'all on something different. But no, I still got to spend time with them because I'm gonna need somebody to come shovel my snow and help me when I get older. They know. I mean, we go places, we do things, but that's what I feel the generations are missing, and they don't have that. So I, try to do my part. So is there anything that you feel that, man, I had this growing up, it was instrumental for me, but I don't see that it's being passed down now for the next generation? What is it?
Excuse me, I want to piggyback off that. Okay. And I'm gonna tell you why. Grandparents are younger.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Grandparents are younger. Grandparents are still trying to figure it out themselves. Grandparents, and for the ones that are, let's say, for example, how can I put this? That's in their 40s. Well, they started having children early. So their child is growing up with them, but then their child have a child. Grandma is not that grandma like my mama used to be. My mother kept everybody kids. We used to go over my auntie's house and spend a night and things to that nature. My daughter had the audacity, and I hope she see this, and when she see it, she's not going to do nothing but shake her head. She had the audacity to tell me, I'll be glad when you be a grandmama. I am a grandmama. You want me to stay in the house? Wow. That's what you want me to do? I'm not my mother. That's what's me. I'm not my mother. I'm more outgoing than my mom was. My mother stayed in the house. She was a housewife. You know what I'm saying? But that's the parents, the grandparents are growing up. The children are growing up with the. Y'all know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, the children are growing up with the parents, and then the grandchildren are actually just being.
That part, that's what's happening, and whatnot. And I told my daughter, I said, well, baby, I don't know what to tell you. You probably gonna have to wait until I get about 70. If I want to slow down then, because 70-year-olds are looking so much younger. They're living longer. So I don't know what to tell you, but I'm gonna do the best I can do. I'm gonna spend time with them. I try to get my granddaughter as much as possible. My grandsons, they don't live close to me, whatever, and I do be missing them. But no, that's what's missing. They had children at a young age.
Yeah, and that's the foundation that's missing. It's like, because for me, it was like my grandparents, I had 3 sets, but I had a grandmother and a grandfather. So then, for my children, my parents, they were divorced by the time I had my children. So that foundation is not there. Now, I'm not a I'm a grandmother to pets. All of my kids have pets. They don't have children. So, but it starts with that foundation. So, Francis, when you talked about, you have your grandparents that are younger now than we did when we were older, the children that they're having, they don't have that foundation that we had.
We don't.
Yeah. I wanna even go a little bit deeper outside of just the grandparents, and just talk about the family structure, right? So when we grew up, it was like, again, it was 9 of us, and so where we lived at, we didn't get a lot of visitors, period, because we actually lived on a plot of land that my grandmother owned. So it was a nice sized plot of land, but it only had 2 houses on it, and so we lived in one of the houses, and so we didn't get company until the holidays, because on the holidays everyone would come there because we had all the land. But outside of that, we never got company like during the rest of the year, pretty much. But we learned to love being around each other, which was something that my mom instilled in us. So we enjoyed each other's company, just our individual family. But that went on to, even as we got older, even now, but even coming up before we got as old as we are now, when we would have parties, it would just be us, my family, and our other counterparts, our other cousins, and all of that. They didn't have that same bond with their families, and they would actually get mad at us whenever we would have our family day, because they was like, "Why it just got to be y'all?" Because everybody wanted to come to be around us, And so that still goes on today. It's like when we have a thing, if we say it's just going to be our family, everybody gets upset. You know what I mean? Like, why we can't come? But even with that, with our children now, they don't have that same bond. And we still trying to get it to, get them, because everybody got their own thing. And now I'm going to hang with my friends and you're going to hang with your friends. Like, that's okay. But we still got to be able to come together as a family. And so with us still doing the family birthday parties, or just like family day, as we call it now, where we all come together, really trying to get them to, I know everybody got their own life and everybody got their own individual families, but we still got to come together on a consistent basis as a family to build that family foundation, that we have amongst the siblings, and not just the grandparents, but the siblings as a whole, because each generation got to build on the next generation, and we got to be able to be around each other, and love each other, because if not, the family just going to grow apart as the generations go.
Yeah. And then also I was going to mention that people back in the day, they weren't as spread out like we are now. People live in different states, so it's harder to get together. And of course, you can get together on Zoom like we're doing now, but as far as being in person and having your children to hang out with their cousins and things like that, it's a little bit more difficult because you live in different states. So one thing that I've told my children is that as they grow older, I want them to always make sure that they keep in contact and communicate with each other. So no matter what they do throughout the year, we spend Christmas together. So we have that one holiday, and I'm trying to make that a tradition within my family. So as they grow older and they have their own children, they'll still get together on Christmas, so that when they start having children instead of pets, that they can get their siblings or they can get their children together, and the first cousins can hang out with each other, and then so on and so on.
Yeah. And one of the things we did, Keisha, to kind of keep that core with us, is we have a message thread on Facebook with just my siblings. And so we're communicating with each other all day long, pretty much. Even though some of us are in different states, it allows us to stay together. And then, I only got one biological child, which is my daughter. So it's easy for me. But for the other ones, some of them have multiple kids and live in different spaces, but they have them do that same thing. So they all have a message thread with them and their kids, and then we have our own as the siblings. And so that's another way, with social media, that we're able to stay connected.
Awesome. Well, let me share. So Ernest, you said you have 9 siblings in your family. Frances says she has 7. She's the oldest of 17, right?
No, I'm the oldest of 9, but I'm a sibling of 17.
17. Okay, so let me just share. I have 21. I have a stepsister that's older than me, but I am the only child and the oldest child. Both my parents have, and I'm the only child they have together. But it's 21. My mom has 7 children. My dad had 8 children. He had 3 stepdaughters he helped raise, and then he married a young lady. She had 2 kids. So I am the only person, and I'm gonna say it's about 5 different families, because then he had 3 children by 3 different women. I think one year my dad had 4 kids in the same year. January, March, May, August. Hey, my dad got around.
Obviously.
Girl, I thought you were gonna say that you had 21 siblings by the same woman. I'm bless her heart. Okay. I was like, that's a pearl clutching. That's why I wear my pearls. That's a pearl clutching moment right there.
Well, I'll say this, and not to cut you off, Veronica. That's when we started talking about generations. My grandmother was the baby of 12 siblings, and then she had 10. My mom was one of the 10, and then my mom had 9. And so out of the 9, my second oldest sister has the most kids, and she has 14. Oh, wow. Same husband and same father, everything. So yeah. That's why I'm like, okay, I'm cool with my one, you know. And then when I remarried, I married a young lady who had 4 sons, and so my 2 oldest sons, both of them have daughters now. And so once I started having grandkids, I was like, all right, that's it for me as far as kids wise. So I'm like, I'm granddaddy from here on out. So I guess I just have my one daughter who's 21 now. So I'm like, yeah, I can't be having kids that's the same age as my grandkids.
Look, I think on my mom's side, my grandfather, it was 18 of them, if I'm not mistaken. And then my grandmother, it was, I believe, 5 of them. And they grew up in a small town called Blythe, California. So here it is generations later, but I have, so half the town I'm related to, probably more than half. Oh, wow. Because it was 18 of them and then 5 of them, and they, just commingled, and then, yeah. So a lot of family out there. We usually have our family reunions out there in Blythe, California. So shout out to my family out there in Blythe.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, but I was the only thread in the only child. My mom let me go and be around my other brothers and sisters. Like, she didn't try to. She like, if your dad have you around them people, they good. Because, hey, he got you. And that's something I think is lacking in relationships too. You all get together, you have a child, for whatever reason it don't work, you should still be able to come together for that child, because that child needs both parents, the mother, whatever you have to offer and whatever he has to offer. He needs both of that. Like, they need that.
And Veronica, I'm gonna piggyback. Another thing my mom taught me that instilled in me too, she said, if you ever get with a man that already have children, you're not just getting with that man, you're getting with the children too. Mm-hmm. So therefore, you play a role in the children's life, and she taught my brothers them the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So when my son started having his children and stuff like that, I had to tell him, I said, those are mine. All of them belongs to me. I don't care about nobody else. They belong to me, and to treat them like that, because you don't know what impact that you do to them, or if theirs not around, or whatever the case might be, because that's where, you lay a foundation to show them, and that legacy gonna carry on with them. Well, this person treated me like this, and I wasn't, I could treat this person like that, and just it carries on, but I thank my mom for that. She was like, oh no, all y'all, we all family. You might as well just say, yeah, those your kids too. So yeah, I really appreciate a lot of things she instilled in me. Yeah, and that plays a role.
Yeah, and each family, they accepted me too. I'm still cool with everybody's family that I grew up with. So yes, I was raised by a village of community of people, and I try to pass that along as well. Mm-hmm. So, last question and final words. We're going to do them all together. What values from Black history resonate the most with your daily life? So I would say what resonates the most is the resilience, that whatever I'm going through, you're not seeing it on my face. Like, it's happening for me and not to me. Like, I'm going to get past it. I'm going to get over it. So the fact that nothing is just going to pull me down. I'm not going to have a bad day. Yeah, it might be a little uncomfortable, but it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna smile through it. So I would say that is the part that Black history has showed me that, man, despite everything that's going on, chaos in the world, I'm centered, I'm calm, and this too shall pass.
I'm gonna piggyback off that part. Yes. Um, Let me see. It would be oh, I had it when you was talking. Um, um, Black Wall Street.
Okay.
Um, the men and women of Black Wall Street. How they came to Tesla, and things to that nature, and build. They didn't let anything stop them. Regardless of what they went through, they were still motivated. Even though, like you said, they might have been going through something, because, like we spoke earlier, even though that they went through something, and people didn't really see it, but they still managed to get through it. Even with the fire and whatever the case might be. That's, as I started learning more about Black Wall Street and things of that nature, that stood out to me. And it told me who I am in such a way of history. Not that we were related or anything like that. And where they didn't stop at, it was the determination, the togetherness, because I truly feel today, with everything that's going on. My mother would talk to me about Trump. Mama, I don't want to hear about Trump. I'm just saying. I spoke about it one morning. I, I can't do nothing about it. I can just keep moving. You know what I'm saying? I can't worry about it. And I told her, I said, well, Mom, if you said that God said Trump could only do what he could do, what you talking about it for? Let's leave it alone. Let's keep it moving. And then she's like, oh, you're right. But the the history of I'm going to go back to Black Wall Street now. It just stood out how they came together, and how, they didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know it was going to happen, but they tried it. And what that became history. For us to look at it and say it can happen still, we just have to learn and do better than what they done. We can learn from them, but make it better. And that what really stuck out to me. Their enthusiasm, be enthusiastic and ambitious and things of that nature. That way helps me a lot, just by looking at it in history.
Awesome. Okay. Keisha?
I think Ernest is talking. You're on mute, Ernest.
My fault.
Oh.
I had to turn my mic off. Yeah, I jump in the same thing, because the thing that stands out to me the most is community. The community that we once had and still have in some cases. But just community in general. We talk about generations. So coming from, that grandmother of 12, and then her having 10 kids, and then my mom having 9, that sense of community, because of my family is so big, is something it has been important to me. And so I've looked for community in different areas of my life to be a part of, and some of us met on some of in those communities, so I think is that's the part that stands out the most to me, and I'll just share this as far as my last words. I had a when I talk about how I got into the whole area of podcasting and all of that, it was because I started a page on Instagram called Friend to Fatherless Daughters, after I realized my dating history has always been with fatherless daughters, right? And so occasionally, I have those conversations, and I had one last Thursday. I did an interview with a young lady on her podcast, talking about fatherless daughters. And my dad actually texted me while I was recording it. So I sent the link to him afterwards, and I said, well, I couldn't answer because I was doing this recording, and I sent it to him. And so he called me the other day, and he's like, I actually watched it, right? He's like, I see a lot of stuff that you be doing, and I don't, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get to it. And he don't end up watching it. But he said, I actually sat down and I watched the whole thing. And so he was just talking to me about how things have changed over the years, and his relationship with my mom, and being a father, and things of that nature. And I think that those lessons that we able to pass on from generations, because that was a big part of what I did, was watching my dad raise my 5 sisters, right? And so that was some of the things I was able to pull from that example of having my dad in the home and his relationship with my sisters, even when it came to my relationship with my daughter. And I just think that as a community, the more we're able to have those conversations, the more we're able to not just let the things from the past remain in the past, but bringing them back to the current and say, we're still possible. We're still able to do the same things that they did. When we talk about, Black Wall Street, in order to build Black Wall Street, there were some tradespeople that had to come. Some African Americans, tradesmen had to come. So that's me and Keisha. So now we bring that here to this generation and say, hey, this is a possibility. This is a lane that we can learn and pass to our generations, who we can then physically build Black Wall Street again. So all of those things from our past, we got to make sure that we're continually to pass them on to the next generation, so they don't get lost in history and it be just a story.
Yes.
That is so true. Well said.
Definitely. So I think for me, it's more so it's going to be a combination of what all of you guys said. You said resilience, ownership, and community. So for me, I'm going to add to that just being self-sufficient. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Mary McLeod Bethune, because she she was not only an educator and a civil rights activist, but she was also someone who was very adamant about pushing for Black women in the skilled trades. And so, just leaning into that and knowing that for me, starting my nonprofit, which is called the Pink Tool Project, where I help young girls and women to understand more about the skilled trades, because I have been self-sufficient for a very long time. I started my career, my trade 30 years ago, back when I was 21 years old. So now being 51, knowing that I have that under my belt, even if I don't do electrical work every day, try not to actually now, because I was in the trade for so long. But I try to help other women understand that this is a career that's very lucrative, and it can help you to support your family to where you don't have to depend on anybody else. So for me, it's about being self-sufficient.
I know that's right. And go 51. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'll throw this in there too, Keisha. I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and they asked me what I did. I'm like, yeah, I've been a bricklayer for 20 some years. And they was like, oh yeah, well, I got this. I said, wait, no. I'm not looking for no work. You know what I'm saying?
Let me give you somebody who can help you out.
I'm just letting you know what I do. I don't need nothing extra,
Awesome. Okay, so my closing words, I'm going to share information about an upcoming single parents conference that we're having geared towards single parents that have children on an autism spectrum. We want to provide tools, techniques, and resources for them. So if you are available and you're going to be in the Chicago area around May 17th, we're going to be at 8560 South Cottage Grove. You can go to our website to get more information, or in the YouTube channel, about the upcoming single parents conference that's geared towards children with autism. If you have some resources or information that you would like to share, please send me a DM or send me an email, because I want to be able to provide as much information as we can for single parents that have children on the autism spectrum. With that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in this week with our weekly check-in, Life Unscripted, just us having a conversation, sharing information. So thank you all, and until next week.
All right, y'all, get ready to go blow the whistle.
Yeah.